Hey, what's going on, y'all? Here's another week of Inside the Room, myself, State Representative Brandon McGee, where we discuss politics, leadership, and culture. And, I always say a little gossip every now and again. But during today's episode, I really like to have a very serious conversation on what we've been seeing for quite some time with respect to white fragility and how white fragility continues to perpetuate racism and fuel the fear of critical race theory being taught within many of our school systems. For those unfamiliar with this particular subject, critical race theory refers to the broad social scientific approach to the study of race, racism, and society. I don't know if you heard of her, but there was an attorney by the name, or attorneys, I should say, by the name of Kimberly Crenshaw and Derek Bell in the early 1980s that came up with this idea of the critical race theory and the theoretical framework around it. And I really want to unpack all of this. I want to talk about current sort of trends that we've been seeing. I don't know if my guest can unpack it, which I think he can, talk about this recent Karen that we know of. And yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. She's known as the Victoria's Secret Karen, the get her away from me Karen. But we'll talk a little bit about her. But many legislators, even my colleagues, some of my colleagues, continue to ignore the historical truths under the notion that teaching history of current events accurately would upset students, white students, and assault the essentially the sensibilities of white students or Caucasian students. And I mean, I can talk more and more about this, but we have a young fella who I have recently just really fallen into great appreciation of the work and the content that he pushes out. He is a political analyst. He is a political blogger. They call him the Q with Q. Quentin R. Giles. And he's here on Inside the Room today to uplift and to educate all of our communities out here on FUBU Nation. So before we jump in, y'all know how I do. I always seek to really preface our conversation with a quote. And I have a quote by Robin DiAngelo. And as she emphasizes the role of white fragility as it relates to critical race theory. And I quote, "To continue reproducing racial inequality, the system only needs for white people to be really nice and carry on, to smile at people of color, to go to lunch with them on occasion. To be clear, being nice is generally a better policy than being mean. But niceness does not bring racism to the table and will not keep it on the table when so many of us are white. Want it off," she says. Niceness does not break with white solidarity and white silence. In fact, naming racism is often seen as not nice, triggering white fragility. At this time, I enjoy bios, but I really don't. But I want Q to really just tell us who he is, the work that he's doing as a political commentator, all of the work that he continues to do. But I do want to read off, and I think it's important that we give honor to whom honor is due. We appreciate you, brother. I mean, you've been featured on NBC LX, TV1's Sister Circle Live, and CBS affiliate WUSA 9's Great Day Washington, just to name a few. And your mantra, your mission is to engage Gen Z, all these different names, you got to explain to me, and millennials in the American political process by disseminating, information in a fun, entertaining, and relatable way.
Yeah.
Y'all, let's welcome Q to Inside the Room. Q, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for reading a little bit of the bio, even though we don't like that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Tell us a little bit about you, though. Talk to
Yeah,
us
so
about who Q
my name
is.
is Quentin R. Giles, or Q. It's shorter, it's simple, it's fun, right? I guess I should start by trade. People want to know, where your education at? Why are you even talking to us? So by
Is
trade,
he educated or not?
Yeah, are you educated or not, or are you just out here just talking? So by trade, I have an undergrad and a master's degree in social work, and I am licensed at the master's level. That was my first career. I used to be a travel social worker, so I literally bounced around the country 3 to 6 months at a time, starting pilot programs or filling employment gaps for hospitals, clinics, things of that nature. And so I've lived in Atlanta doing social work. I've lived in the Bay Area, LA, Texas, Vegas, all over the place. And so I really got a great sense of various populations around the country. And one of the reasons I chose social work as an original profession was because I always wanted to help people. In the field of social work, we really take people where they are. And I like that because everybody is different. Everybody is unique. Everybody comes with their own circumstances and their own ideas. And so that training kind of helped me just see the value in people at a baseline level from an educational standpoint. From a biblical standpoint, another part of me, or from a faith standpoint, I am a follower of Christ. I like to use the term follower as opposed to just being a Christian, because for me, it's a daily submission. It's a daily death that I have to choose to follow him and the things that he said. And so from that aspect, everybody gets a basic level of human decency and respect and value in their humanity from me, because I believe, whether you believe it or not, but I believe that everyone is an image bearer of God. And so it is upon me to give you just that off rip. So that's that. Now, as far as politics goes, I've always had a love and a passion for politics.
Before you jump in, no, it's okay. Before you jump into politics, I really want to stay there around the licensed social worker field and the work that you were doing there. I want to know a little bit more of, how does having your LMSW impact your ability to influence a lot of what you do? Like, you're in mass media and you speak on issues that are pertinent to marginalized populations, Black and brown folks, indigenous people, and as they intervene within the political arena. So like, how does knowing how to work alongside people and understanding people really influence the work you do?
Yeah, no, it's almost everything, right? Because to be able to, and I don't want to use the word influence, right? Because I feel like that, I know why we use it and there's validity in that word, but I feel like that takes away from the other person's ability to make their own decision, right?
That's right.
I think from that social work perspective, it is everything, because what people want is basic human dignity and respect, right? People want to feel heard. Now, some people want to just be right, but I think the majority of us want to feel at least heard, right? If I feel as though you heard me, but yet you disagree, there's still a pathway forward. And so for me, that social work training of just being able to learn how to listen, not listen to respond, but learning how to listen, learning how to read body language, learning how to seeing the things that people want, even when they don't see it or don't have the language for it, is everything, because now I'm able to communicate in a way to where you can hear me. If I know that I know what you just said was wrong.
Come on, preacher.
Or if I know that what you just said was wrong, instead of me bashing you over the head, I can allow space for you to express and communicate, and then I can represent what you said, show you the flaw in the thinking, present a better way, and 9 times out of 10, you'll walk away at least either seeing it the way that I presented it to you, or at least seriously considering what I've told you. So it's everything.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Like, I want to stay there. So I cut you off, and you were getting ready to segue into sort of the political facet of your life. And many people, I think, who stumble across your page or intentionally go to your Instagram or your social media platforms, they tend to engage around your political perspective on issues and not limited to, but talk to us a little bit about that and how you sort of segue out of being this licensed, mastered, clinical social worker, and now this commentary, this person that people, they seek after to hear your perspective on certain issues.
Yeah, I will say one thing. I don't want to misrepresent. So not clinical, because that's a different, that it's the same profession, but it's a different licensure, if you will. So
listen, you better, it's your name on it. So
yeah. So shout out to all the clinical social workers, the licensed clinical ones. I'm not there. I'm the licensed master.
LMSW.
LMSW, not LC, not LC. But how did I segue into that? Well, I got activated. I'll use that word. I got activated during Barack Obama's tenure as president. When Barack Obama ran the first time, that happened that election year was my 18th birthday, so I was eligible to vote. And I'm not ashamed to say that, yes, I voted for the black man because he was black. I was 18. Yes.
Wait, Paul. So do you believe, this is so random and not along any lines of this interview, but do you believe many people voted for Barack because of the color of his skin?
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm with it. I'm here for it.
That takes none of his intelligence away. Like, that doesn't take any of his accolades away. That doesn't take the good nor the bad that he did as president, because there was both. That doesn't take any of that away. But for me, being a black boy growing up, 18 years, I've only saw white male presidents. You know what I'm saying? At that time as well, we weren't, quote unquote, protecting black women at that time. We weren't embracing our natural hair. Like I see you have, like I have, like my guy in this photo has. Like, so to see a black man with his cocoa butter brown wife and children, absolutely I voted for them. You are correct. Yes, I did. And I'm not ashamed about it.
What's up.
That's what got me in the door of politics, though. You know, that's what kind of made me start paying attention when we started having government shutdowns at that time. So so let me push forward. So Barack Obama gets elected. I voted for him. You know, I'm in college at the time. I'm kind of engaged, but not really. It kind of sparked an interest in student government as well. And I ended up being our student government president my senior year of college. So all of these things kind of intertwined.
Where did you attend school?
I went to Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas.
Okay, is that an HBCU?
On campus it was. On the dorms it was. The dorms were definitely an HBCU, but no, not the school, but the dorms, absolutely lit.
I am dying laughing.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I knew it wasn't, but I just wanted to see what that punchline would be.
So The dorms was definitely given HBCU, all the things. So I find myself, interested based on that. I'm taking these social work classes because this is a part of it as well, right? And learning, especially taking like policy courses, learning how these things or these systems, these laws impact our everyday life, right? Because I'm learning how to advocate for my client. Then I'm learning barriers, learning why there are barriers, where's the red tape coming from. So all these things are building out what you see today, right? And so I decided when I was in grad school, I thought I was gonna go to the Air Force to get the clinical licensure, right? I was gonna go to the Air Force, all the things. I went to the basic MEPS, do the drug test, turnover cough, all of that stuff, right? And the government shut down. And so my process stopped. And I remember being in grad school, I was like, how does the government shut down? Like, did y'all go home? Are things not functioning? Like, what do we do? And what I learned based upon my research is it's called a shutdown, but what we're talking about is funding. There's no budget, no money being allocated to certain programs.
That's right.
But how my process, because I was in the middle of almost going into the military, thank God that it did shut down, because I ended up not doing it. Shout out to the people in the military, but I think hindsight, that wasn't for me. So seeing as how everything shut down, and then when everything opened back up, I no longer had the people I was talking to originally. All of that shifted. Those people were no longer there. I had an entirely new commander I was speaking to try to get in. That person didn't know much about the program I wanted to do, so I kind of pushed away from it. But that shutdown made me go, oh, y'all can just choose not to do work? Hold on, now what? Now I might be in the wrong profession. So that's where I got it from. And so as I'm talking to like grad school colleagues, nobody's interested. Nobody's, really paying attention. I'm talking to friends, nobody. And I'm like, you all have to know about this stuff. So the only other person that was actually interested was my mom. And I would say politics strengthened my mom and I's relationship because we found a new bond. We were already good, but it was like, that's where we
because it was almost like that's all we had in our face. It was a constant, very consistent, here's what's going on. Here, if it was nothing else, it was COVID and its relation to funding, who's not getting, tested, etc. So that's dope. So basically you were forced into being this political commentator and really repurposing your political or your platform, your social media platform to now speak to those issues. How have you been engaging this Gen Z and millennials around what you do? And then we're going to take a quick break, but tell us really quickly.
Yeah, really using socials. Like I go where they are on TikTok. Like I go there. People don't want to go there, but I need training on TikTok.
If you were to go to my TikTok right now, I think I posted maybe a month ago, which is bad. I know.
No. You got to get in there. You got to get in there. Yeah. You got to get in there. And just talking, honestly, just being me and just communicating the information, breaking it down and going where they are. That's how I engage. You go to them. Like if we want to get them engaged, go to them. We can't keep doing the same old thing thinking they're going to come to us. It's not going to work that way.
But I'm reminded though, and I sort of, I want to align my thoughts with President Barack Obama when he said, and I don't know if it was a tweet or he was like on the stage and he talked about it, but it was along the lines of social activism and that we need to really go door to door and we need to go back to the streets. And his concern was many of our colleagues, we're doing our damn thing on Twitter, right? Black Twitter be on fleek. Shout out to Black, what? Yeah. Shout out to Black Twitter. Like, I love them, but on the same token, is that where it stops, right? And so, or is it both and? We should be on the street and we should also be a part of the digital sort of movement that we all take part in. And I struggle with the digital side because I went to school, Alabama State University, Montgomery, Alabama, historically Black college university. I was the president of the State Youth and College Division, pledged Alpha. I did everything that all the things, all the things, right? Yeah. And we were taught very traditionally, like in order to get people out, you've got to meet them where they are. And so I appreciate you saying that and actually doing it, right? Yeah. And understanding the importance of it. But you know what? I really want to keep going, but we got to pay a few bills. But I want to take a quick turn and I want to talk a little bit about what we've been talking about all of 2020 is white fragility, right? And why is it so hard for white folk to talk about racism? And I think Robin DiAngelo, she actually said it best. And I really want to hear your thoughts and perspective, and I'll share a little bit of mine, but there's so much to unpack in that. Yeah. And so if you're just tuning in to FUBU Radio, y'all, you are in for a treat. We are here with Q or Quentin R. Giles. You got to say the whole name. You can't just say Q. Quentin R. Giles, he is a political analyst, a political blogger, and he is just all things on fleek. And my nephew told me to stop using that word because it's dated, but I don't care. So I'm just really glad that he's on. He said just a little bit. I'm also a little older. So he's on. You know what? So,
you don't look it. The black don't break.
I appreciate that. So y'all keep it locked. Don't go nowhere. We're going to come back and we're going to continue our conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about these Karens out there. So keep it locked. Don't go nowhere. Hey, what's going on, y'all? If you're just tuning in, thank you so much for joining us every Monday at 4 p.m. We're here inside the room with yours truly, State Representative Brandon McGee. And, we discuss a little bit of everything, but specifically politics, leadership, and culture. And every now and again with my co-host, Shay McCrae, we'll give you a little gossip. But today, we are inside the room with Quentin R. Giles, hails from Texas, and he is doing some phenomenal work there and throughout this country, educating our Gen Z and also our millennial folks on the importance of being a part of the process and not just talking about it. But we talked a little bit about his work and how he got involved in the political fight for justice. But before we went on break, I shared with you all how I wanted to really unpack this phrase, this term, white fragility. And just to put some color to this, I don't know if you all have been following any social media as of late, but there's a new Karen. There's a new Karen out there. Her name is Abigail Elplick, I think it is, BKA. Victoria's Secret Karen claimed she had a mental breakdown. Now, while all that might be true, I don't want to negate anybody's health status. That's that. We'll leave that there. But oftentimes, folks of her hue tend to use mental health breakdowns as an excuse when it is an attack, direct attack on Black folk. And so I'm not going to unpack that entire story, but just know that she basically fell to the ground, started screaming because she was next to a Black woman. I guess they were giving out free pantyhose at Victoria's Secret, and the Black lady may have grabbed the last pair, and she just freaked out. She's attacking me. She's attacking me. And all that to say, the police officers come in. They say nothing to Karen or Abigail. They asked the Black woman to leave the mall. And I mean, we're so used to it, it's sad, but it's also an issue when we bring it up to our white counterparts. The defense mechanism comes up, and hence white fragility. But Q, talk to us a little bit about your perspective on white fragility. Why is it so hard for white people to talk about racism? And how individualism and racism, morality, white solidarity and silence, and all of this stuff, it's all sort of, it's not the same, number one, but it becomes convoluted when you don't break it down. And so help us understand it a little bit more on this whole topic of white fragility.
Yeah, I'll try. I'm not white, so I'm not in their shoes, but what I think, I think one of the
We can talk about our experience.
I'm gonna talk about my experience now. Yeah, I got that one.
And that's what I want to hear, because I have some too.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, for white folks to really grasp, or not all, but a good amount to grasp the concept of racism or the true meaning of that, because then that means they have to acknowledge that although they may not have built a system that we operate in, they benefit from it, right? So, I didn't enslave anyone, I didn't segregate anyone, I didn't put the laws on the books, yet you benefit from all of that. Mm-hmm. And so I think, this is my social work hat on, I think when a person is not ready to accept the reality on the ground or to accept any part of the responsibility, then you automatically are defensive. When what we're saying is it's not that you did it, but you benefit from it, and you continue to benefit from it at my disadvantage, right? And so until those particular white folks are ready to have that conversation, I think you're going to continue to see white fragility, because you constantly see pushback of I didn't do it. It's not my fault. I'm not the problem, Well, no one is saying that you're the problem. We're just saying that you benefit from the problem.
Yeah, for me, I tend to go to the individualism and objectivity, which is basically the notions of individualism and one who is objective both allow white people to, in most instances, maintain this idea of self-images that are not rationalized.
Yeah.
And, I think it was D'Angelo. I read a lot of her work, but it was both of these beliefs, for the most part, are often held by majority white folks as a result of their lack of racialized self-image. And at some point, one could argue that the opposite is true. All people are socialized in a culture of white supremacy and relentlessly exposed to stereotypes, racial stereotypes. But I struggle with this notion when you begin talking about racism and morality, this idea where folks talk about there is good, bad. There is this idea that not all white people are racist, which is true. I get it. But there's this false dichotomy of good, not racist versus bad racist. And
right.
I struggle with that because oftentimes I have a hard time breaking it down. And what I've concluded with is that notion, it ignores the realities of socialization and unconscious bias that one white folks have. And in doing so, it is, for me, the most egregious, I think, act when we begin talking about education, the critical race theory in our school and all of this stuff. It's such an easy excuse for white folks to hang their hats on and say, you know what, like you said earlier, I really don't want to be a part of the conversation because I didn't make the rules. It's unfair that you would even talk about this with my children. You know, I'm not racist. I'm a good person.
Yeah.
Ma'am, sir.
Yeah.
Don't be so discomforted in talking about the realities that we're faced with.
Yeah, you know? I think white people should probably, and maybe all people, but white people, since that's who we're talking about, should read the book How to Be Anti-Racist.
I read it. It's a great book. Great book.
Because the book talks about being anti-racist is a day-to-day, minute-to-minute decision in the choices that we make. So one claiming to be not racist and a good person, but still expressing racist ideologies or turning a blind eye to blatant racism suggests that you are, because you're not doing anything to prevent it. So that thing that you're seeing doesn't rise to a level of care enough for you to intervene. If you saw a dog specifically, and this may be a stereotype, so I don't know how deep I want to get into it, but if you saw a dog being beaten on the street, there would be outrage from a lot of people, but a particular set of people, right? There would be massive outrage if somebody started skinning cats on the street. But you can watch a black man be killed. Now, I'm not talking about George Floyd, because I think we've all, for the most part, agreed that was atrocious, right? And that was wrong. It's sad that it took that type of video, somebody to be suffocated on tape, to say, oh no, that was wrong, even when you still have other people trying to pull up his past record and all that other stuff. But you can see black people get disenfranchised. You can see black people getting murdered in the street. You can see black people in Victoria's Secret being asked to leave for participating in a sale because the new Karen on the block had a temper tantrum, and yet and still you say nothing, you do nothing, you choose not to even, in the most basic sense, engage in a conversation. I'm not even asking you to march. I'm not even asking you to lobby Congress. You won't even engage in the simple conversation. It suggests that even if you're not racist, you agree with racist ideology.
I have so much to say. I have so much, and we have such little time, because I mean, if you're human and you care any about the culture, about social justice, 2020 challenged all of us.
Yeah.
In various ways. But for me, it as a legislator, as a sitting elected state official,
Yeah.
it for me it colored all of the inequities that we knew and we know of, and it just it shined this very bright light on. So what are you going to do now, white folks that are in control?
Yeah.
You know, and it allowed us though to bring these types of conversations to the forefront and hold many of the folks who again manage the system, bring them to task, you know, and I don't think this conversation on, you know, white fragility, white solidarity and silence and white discomfort and all of these terms that we have, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So from your perspective, from your work, your view, you know, what should we be doing? What message should we be sending to our millennials, our constituencies that listen to you, that follow you on TikTok and all of these social media platforms? What are some of the things that we can be doing?
Yeah, I encourage all my young people that I talk to run for office. And I really do. We were talking offline. I had a session, San Francisco, agency booked me to go out there to talk to some kids. They're in foster care and or about to age out, right? And I really encouraged them to run for office. We were talking about police brutality and accountability. And really the whole goal of that was to make sure that those kids ended up alive on the other side of their police accountability. So we even talked about hard conversations like compliance, right? Which is not a great term. And especially if you're talking to Black folks and Black men, Black boys, it's like comply. Yeah. But in that moment, that cop has all the power, right? So we walked through those dynamics, but at the end of that, what I was telling them was, you can change it by lobbying, but you can also change it by running.
That's right.
And the questions I started to receive, like, well, don't I need this? Don't I need that? No, you don't need any of those things. You don't need any. I mean, there are certain requirements, right? Depending on what you want to run for, age, making sure you're a U.S. citizen. There are certain basic requirements, but this idea that you had to be, quote unquote, somebody already to run. Like we broke a lot of that stuff down and was like, no, you don't. You just need to care enough, and you just need to garner enough support to get your name out there. That's all you need. And so like seeing some of those kids light up like, oh, I didn't know that. You should become, or hey, you want to go in this criminal justice system. Have you thought about being a judge? Like, I think that as the older generation need to start implanting these things in our kids and telling them, instead of just saying you should be this, give them the steps. Because it was like, well, how do I become a judge? Oh, well, there are many different ways. What type of judge do you want to be? Maybe you need to be a lawyer. Some instances, if you want to be a county judge, depending on where you go, you don't have to be any of those things.
That's right.
You don't have to be any of those things. You can just run.
You know what I tell young people that I encounter, and even not so young folk, you don't necessarily have to run either. Like the people who are making a lot of decisions and have great influence over the process, lobbyists. You could be an attorney. You could work in the General Assembly or your state houses and not actually be the elected official, but by all means, like, you can actually run and do it. And I liken it to their student government, you know what I mean? And helping them to understand the ingredients. They're still the same. They're still the same, but you have to be passionate about something.
About it, right? You gotta care about your constituents. That's the thing I put. You have to care. I don't want you just running just because you want the spotlight. Like we'll give you the spotlight.
We have enough of those.
We have enough of that. We need you to care. We need you to do the work once you get there. But I think we have to start giving our kids the blueprint of what does it look like? What are the steps? I know for me, when I was a kid, there were a lot of things that I wanted to do, but I never knew how to get there. Social work, if I would have known when I was younger, social work might not have been the career field of choice. Because I didn't know as a kid how to be a judge. I used judge because Quentin wanted to be a judge.
Really?
I didn't know what that, when I was a kid, I was like, I'm gonna be a judge. I didn't know what it looked like. I just knew I wanted to be a judge. Thurgood Marshall was my inspiration. I dressed up as him for Black History and I fell in love after that. But I never did as a kid as well, particular circumstance, grown up Black kid, single mom, certain things going on. I never had the encouragement to continue to do the research. That's not a slight towards my mom, but there was never a push there, and there was no self-push as well. So what would it have looked like if me in older capacity talked to younger Quentin or a younger guy to say, hey, this is how you be a judge. What kind of judge do you want to be? Let's look that up. Let's find the requirements. Oh, this is what you need to do to get there, right? I could be a sitting judge right now. I might have even been a Supreme Court judge. Next, you never know. But yeah, I think that we just have to do the work. If you're asking me what we need to do to get our kids engaged, we have to do the work to let them know what it is and not just expect them to know or just expect them to show up because democracy is on the ballot or because of all these things. We got to get them to buy in. So explain it to them.
Yeah, I mean, and you said this early on, you can't continue to expect young people or just people in general to just want to be a part of this. You have to go where they are. And, you know, oftentimes I believe that many of our young people, they struggle with engaging with the political sector because they believe it's so cookie cutter and you have to do it a certain way. And I'm just, again, I'm glad that you're out there, you know, dispelling some of those myths about engaging. And we're seeing more and more of our hip hop artists and folks engaging in the political process. I need them to hire more folks like you and I to help them with their messaging so that they can understand it.
That part.
And so, and again, we're on FUBU Radio, so I have colleagues out there, y'all listening. Thank you. But Q, tell us how folks can access you, your social media handle, all that good stuff. And then I want to talk a little bit about a situation that happened in Texas around voting, and then we can talk about the filibuster and all of that.
Yeah, good deal. So I think the easiest way to just to access the social media is to go there. Quentin R. Giles on Instagram. Quentin Giles on TikTok. I left out the R on TikTok. The YouTube, you can go to the Q with Q, just explain it. It's kind of like things pop up in the political queue and then Q explains it to you. And then I'm gonna throw this out there, a shameless plug for anybody that would like to book me. You can email me, you know, because since you know, vaccinations are going around and masks are coming out and the world is opening up, I'm ready to go back on the stage. So you can book me at booking at Quentin R. Giles, that's QUENTINRGILES.com.
And as you all can see, he is full of life and energy, but with purpose. And I could see why or how, you know, so many young people are engaged when you speak. So again, y'all link up with him. We're gonna take another break and we're gonna come back and talk a little bit about a Black man who was arrested in Texas for voting. I think voting while on parole. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about that and how that has influenced a lot of folks to actually say, you know what, I'm going to register to vote because I don't like what they're doing. So y'all keep it locked. Don't go nowhere. Stay right here on FUBURadio.com. What's up? What's up? If you're just tuning back in, we're here with Quentin R. Giles, and we've been talking about quite a few things, from white fragility to Quentin's career as a social worker. I guess once a social worker, always a social worker, but he's moved into this space, this political space of educating our people, and it's just been a really live conversation, and I am just excited to have had this opportunity to engage with him. But I want to jump back in and I want to talk a little bit about what's been happening across the country, specifically in Texas, when we begin talking about this idea of this long history of voter suppression or voting suppression. Simply put, you know, discouraging people from voting, going to the polls. And we know in 2020, there were all types of efforts and laws passed to encourage more people to be a part of that process of voting. Recently, there was a Texas man arrested on charges that he voted in the 2020 Democratic primary while on parole. He could face up to as much as 20 years in prison. Under Texas law, it is illegal for a felon to knowingly vote while still serving a sentence, including parole. And I believe the provisions made in Senate Bill 7 blocks many Black and Latino voting methods, which which many would call Jim Crow in a tuxedo. That's a new term. So for me, well, I'll hold my thought and be a gentleman and give it to you. Talk a little bit about this situation down there in Texas, and what the hell are y'all doing?
Yeah. So let's start with this, right? Law is law, right? But we do have unjust laws. So there's that. But law is law. Our guy got caught up, if you will.
Yeah.
He was about 3 months away from the end of his parole. Per the rules, let's just go per the rules. That's against the rules. There's that, right? Now, he's been charged with 2 crimes. So it's up to 20 years per crime. So he could do 40.
Yep.
Should the man go to prison for 40 years, potentially he said he didn't know, unknowingly voting while he was still on parole? No. That's what I think with that. No, he should not. Hopefully his judge, whoever it is, has some type of compassion. There is judge's discretion to see like this was probably an honest mistake, although he should have known the terms of what his parole was. That is a personal responsibility.
It's a tough, personal responsibility.
There's a personal responsibility with it. That's just what it is, right? Now, that doesn't mean that the law is unjust. Right? Just because the law is on the books doesn't mean it's unjust, and we can't advocate for those types of laws to no longer be on the books. That's something I don't understand, honestly, and don't agree with. Why? Well, I do understand it. Let me take that back. I understand it. I don't agree. But why, just because someone commits a crime, they then no longer have access to voice their opinion on how democracy should be ran? Because essentially, they're still a citizen.
That's right.
They're still a citizen. At the end of the day, they're still going to pay taxes. Whether you agree, I think a lot of times we look at criminals and just decide that they need to go away, they need to go to jail, we shouldn't be here. And some people do need to be down at the prison, period. However, when they get out, they still pay taxes. If they can get a job, you're still collecting their tax income. Like you've denied them the right to exercise their vote or exercise their voice, but you're still going to take their money, whatever money that they can make legally, right? So I'm not a person that actually agrees with it. I'm hopeful that there is a judge that has compassion on this man, but I still do stand that it's the law on the books right now, so we do have to operate inside of the law.
Yeah, no, I can definitely appreciate that. And having wrapped up our legislative session just recently, there were several bills that focused around expunging or sealing of criminal records, essentially letting those who are on parole chopping up their time depending on whatever the offense or offenses may have been. And I am of the mindset, if these folks have served their time, which per law, he was constitutionally still a part of the state because he was on parole. So I agree with you 1000%. That was a personal responsibility, a personal choice that he made. But the implications of it, though, are severe, right? And that there are thousands of individuals in Texas, but I can talk about Connecticut, who have had some sort of a brush with the criminal justice system. They've served their time, they're working, they're paying taxes, yet they cannot vote. And they didn't violate any voting law whatsoever. And it's bigger than the situation with this young man or whoever this man is in Texas, but it further discourages so many folk who really want to be a part of the process. And it plays right into this voting suppression that's been happening across this country. We've heard President Biden, Vice President Harris talk about it. They even launched a campaign, Fix Our Senate, which is a coalition of maybe about 70 organizations that are working to educate people on the importance of voting. But I just think, like you said, and I'll keep using it, it's a personal responsibility. And if you need reminders for you that are listening and you struggle with voting because you're saying it doesn't do anything. I've heard that before. I don't know about you, Q, but I've heard people say, I voted, but I don't see no change.
Yeah.
We'll worry about them later. But right now, y'all need to vote. Y'all need to vote. What message do you want to send to many of our millennials and our folks who are out there doing their thing, making their money, but they're just far away from the political process? What would you tell them?
The ones that's making their money, you should get involved because you may be able to make more money. That's that, right? Because if you get involved and you start lobbying for certain laws, it may be more advantageous for you getting your money. Speaking
of money, this is random too, but it's so relevant. Cannabis, we passed a law to legalize adult use of cannabis here in the state of Connecticut. Texas, I don't know, y'all little.
We're on the slow path to that, but we're not there.
Yeah. Okay. So many millennials are wondering, well, this is the same drug that has quote unquote drug that has, taken so many of our people, put them in prison, etc. How can we benefit from this? What can we do? And I think now is the time for many of them to be a part of that conversation as well. So y'all got a lot of work to do in Texas. Call me in if y'all need somebody to help work with your legislature.
Well, I'm gonna say this: you might have to talk to somebody. I don't smoke, so you got to talk to somebody else about that one.
I don't smoke either, but I do believe that. And I had this conversation with many of our legislators or our faith leaders here in the state of Connecticut. The ball is rolling whether you want to be a part of this conversation or not.
Correct.
And so the very communities that we all come from, Black and brown, have been disproportionately impacted by this drug. And now all of a sudden we want to legalize it. And then where's the money going? Is it going to go to our education system? Is it going to hire our people? Is it going to allow for training and other opportunities for our folk? So you don't have to smoke it, but you don't have to eat an edible. You don't got to do nothing. But there is money to be made, and no, it does not negatively impact our communities. And we can have a whole.
That's a whole nother 45 minutes.
But as a former chair of our legislature's Black and Puerto Rican caucus, that was something that I struggled with. But I made sure our communities had the information to make their own choice or decision to support. But anyway, getting people involved is where we were. But go ahead, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, there is one more thing I will want to say to our, since we're talking about like this business structure as well. I would encourage our young folks, particularly our Black, brown, indigenous folks, start you a business. And the reason I'm gonna say this, what I have learned being a business owner, in this, I have created, talking about politics, my public speaking. This is a business that I do.
That's right.
I have a fully formed LLC that I run my business out of, social media, all of that, anything that goes there, right? What I've learned is the laws that are currently on the books are so advantageous for business owners. Now, I'm a workers' rights type of guy. However, in this moment, the laws on the books benefit the business owner, right? So start a business, find that thing that you like and create a fully formed business. Get your EIN, get your LLC, get you an accountant, do it the right way. Make sure your stuff is on point. Get you a lawyer. All those things. And I'm a segue into PPP as well. One thing that blew my mind about PPP.
What is PPP? What is PPP?
A personal paycheck protection program that was issued out during, the greater part of the pandemic, because we're still in pandemic, right? What I realized, my business got some PPP. We did it the right way, though. We ain't talking about that fraudulent PPP.
You better make it clear.
Make it very clear. We got we put the exact numbers in, what they said we can get, that's what we took, and nothing more, nothing less, okay? But what I realized, this is what's crazy to me. What I realized, they allowed businesses to get 2 disbursements, right? And when you go back to get this loan forgiven, it's essentially a grant. Anybody that got less than $50,000 can self-certify. Meaning, when it's time to do the forgiveness, all I got to do is say, oh, yes, I spent the money on what I was supposed to spend it on. And the government said, okay, cool. What that tells me is y'all have given out so much money that you don't even have time to look at people that got under $50,000. That lets you know, one, our country has money. So that's my segue into giving Black people reparations, because you got the coins. But two, look at what our country did for business owners. Look at how much of a fight it was for unemployment. And look how easy it was to give the business owner the money. Start you a business.
So in closing, how can folks get in touch with you, keep in touch with you, hire you for your services?
Let's start with hiring. Come on now, let's start with hiring so we don't have to get no more PPP. We can just keep the ball rolling. These lights.
There you go.
But no, you can get me at booking, BOOKING at Quentin R. Giles, QUENTINRJILES.com. Social media platforms, Quentin R. Giles on Instagram, Quentin Giles on TikTok. Shout out to my TikTok fan. We just hit 300,000 followers on TikTok. I'm kind of
you did.
Yeah, you can follow me on YouTube, The Q with Q, or just Google my name, Quentin R. Giles. All those things will pop up.
And you have something else happening. You're just doing a lot, so we'll leave it at that.
I was gonna. I mean, if you want me to plug it,
plug it, man. That's what we're on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen. Great things are really happening. I literally, I'm writing another book. I just got signed to a literary agent, so I'm super excited about that. Another thing I'll kind of briefly mention. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with African Ancestry. It's a Black-owned DNA company that will trace your genetic material down to the tribe your family comes from. It's called African Ancestry. I just did a deal with them. That's about to come out, I think, in 2 days. So yeah, actually, tomorrow. We talked yesterday, finalized everything. It'll come out tomorrow. So check that out. I've done it. I found out, where my paternal side comes from. I'm still waiting on the results from my mother's side. Apparently I'm from a country called Gabon, of the Sogo people. So I know the tribe. I can go visit them now. So yeah, we got some stuff in the works. I'm super excited about the book, excited about the partnership with African Ancestry. And yeah, still out there speaking and talking on stages. So yeah, we got some stuff cooking.
Well, that's what's up. Well, thanks again, Q, for taking time to just chop it up with me, talk about various issues and challenges we're faced with, but most importantly, encouraging us to be a part of this very political process. So again, y'all, thank y'all so much for listening. Y'all follow me. My co-host Q told me that I need to change all of my social media handle because I have a different name for each platform.
Yeah.
Anyway, y'all follow me on Instagram _BLMJ_ at Rep McGee on Twitter. And as always, I love y'all. Oh, I forgot about Spotify and also YouTube. So Inside the Room with Brandon McGee on both of those platforms, Spotify and YouTube. So as always, I love you. Y'all don't go nowhere. Keep it locked. There's another great show coming on and you don't want to miss it. Take care.